Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Monday, September 25th, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The only black woman on North Carolina State Supreme Court, Anita Earls, says she's being targeted for criticizing the court's lack of diversity. She's filed a lawsuit saying the investigation is trying to silence her. The NAACP and the Advancement Project are among some organizations showing support for her. We'll be joined by Judith Browne Dianis, Executive Director of the Advancement Project. Also, it's being called one of the largest retail takeovers in history. We'll break down the Kroger-Albertsons Merger and what it means for workers. That conservative columnist, David Brooks of the New York Times, who claimed he spent about $80 on a burger and fries and a drink at an airport in New York area. Well, guess what? That New Jersey eatery, they fired back with a special named after him. The owners are African-American. We'll talk with the owner of 1911 Smoke House BBQ restaurant. Folks, also, we'll talk about that viral video of the young black gymnast in Ireland snubbed during a medal ceremony. Plus, Vice President Kamala Harris and Joe Biden both speak this weekend at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, ALC. We'll also have some of what both of them had to say. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
I have repeatedly told y'all how black folks are being targeted by Republicans in North Carolina, especially now that they have a veto-proof majority in the legislature. Well, Anita Earls, who sits on the North Carolina Supreme Court, she spoke about diversity and why she supports it. She also has been criticized talking about the racial and gender biases within the North Carolina state court system. Well, as a result, folks have been targeting her in a major way. Now, she is the only black justice on the court. Remember, Sherry Beasley was the chief justice, but she lost by 400 votes. Earls is now suing to stop an investigation of her comments, saying it violates her First Amendment rights, and claims she was accused of violating a rule for judges against impugning the integrity of the courts. The identity of the person who initiated the investigation into Earls is officially a secret. But state Democrats believe that Supreme Court Chief Justice Paul Newby, a Republican, is the one who pushed for the investigation. A coalition comprised of NAACP, the Advancement Project, and 14 other civil rights organizations are calling on the North Carolina Judicial Standards Commission to drop its investigation into Justice Earls and instead turn its attention to addressing the critical issues she raised about racial bias and the lack of representation within the state's court system. Judith Browne Dianis, Executive Director of the Advancement Project National Office, joining me now from D.C. Judith, glad to have you here. What this simply is, and I keep saying this, is a continued assault on black people by white conservative Republicans in North Carolina.
That's right. I mean, this is nothing new, right? And this is, again, someone who, a black woman, she's the third black woman in the 205 years that court has existed, who is a civil rights lawyer. And when I say civil rights lawyer, this sister's like, her work runs deep. She's the person who did redistricting cases as a lawyer in the state of North Carolina. She worked at the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. She worked at the Lawyers Committee. She worked at Advancement Project. So she started a civil rights organization the Southern Coalition for Social Justice in the state of North Carolina. And so they know what they're up against. They're up against a woman who was elected to sit on the Supreme Court and who is has justice in her heart and is not going to sit back and let that court be a court for whites only. And so they're going after her because they know she's the progressive on the court.
Well, what this also, again, is for them, the cementing of power. And this Chief Justice, this white conservative male, he was actually pissed when Chair Beasley was chosen. He felt he should have gotten the job. And that's why he ran against her. And then, of course, he beat her. Democrats could have had a 6-1 majority on the court. He beats her. It's 4-3 in 2022. They run again. Democrat loses, and then the court flips. And then they immediately begin they actually overturn 3 decisions at the previous Democratic court made. And so this is about flexing political power.
That's right. That point alone is crazy. Like, I've been practicing law for a few years. I won't say how many decades, but like the idea that you get a new Chief Justice and they're going to rehear cases that they have already decided, right? And they picked particular cases. They picked cases that were political issues, right? They want to hear about abortion again. They want to hear about redistricting again. So this is a political move. And we need to put this in perspective, right? Which is, there's a larger, which you have called out, right? Is the power grab that is happening, right? So this is happening in the courts. It's happening in the state legislatures, that we can elect people of our choice. We can get them seated. They can make policy decisions and court decisions that they should be making in the name of justice. And instead, what happens is these Republicans come in and they do a power grab and they say, you know what? So what, you elected those people? We don't care. We're going to overrule that. We're going to take up this law. We're going to get rid of that law with preemption, et cetera. And so we need to understand that this power grab that is happening is real, and it is happening in every branch of government. And North Carolina and Florida are places that are ground zero on these issues.
This is the thing that what I keep saying to black voters in North Carolina: you can't sit at home.
That's right.
You've got a deranged lieutenant governor who's black, a Republican. Crazy people will say his ass crazy, okay? Mm-hmm. You've got these Republicans in the legislature doing all they can to screw over black people as well. And if you are black in North Carolina, I don't see how you can sit out an election when these people are targeting black people. It's not even covert, it's overt.
Right. And we downplay the courts, right? We downplay the elections of judges, right? Because everybody worries about presidential election, congressional elections, but judges matter. All of the issues we care about are going before these courts, and these right-wing courts are getting rid of protections, civil rights protections that we thought we would always have, because we fought for them, we bled for them, we died for them. But they are rolling back the clock, and they're using the courts and the state legislatures as their tools. And so we cannot sit back, right? People in North Carolina need to know who Anita Earls is, need to know that she ran, need to know that she won that position, right? And that when the elections come up for Supreme Court justices, you can't sit at home because you only care about who becomes president. You need to be turning out for these elections because judges matter.
Well, and also what these people are going to do, remember, they may very well allow racial gerrymandering. This court.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, this is right. These cases come before a Supreme Court at the state level. And so they get to lock in, and they're partisan judges. And they decided to go with partisan judges. And so they lock in power for decades. It ain't just 10 years, 5 years, it's decades worth of power when these redistricting cases go before them. And so it's all on the line, folks. You know, like they are coming at us from every branch of government with everything that they can to turn back the clock. And so we have to be vigilant, and we can't sit at home. There's no way we should be sitting at home for no election anytime soon.
I'm going to bring in my panel right now, Dr. Julian Malvo, President Emerita, been at college, also an economist, joining us from D.C., Dr. Amakongo Dominguez, Senior Professor, Lecturer, School of International Service, American University, Washington, D.C. You know, on that point, Julian, you were there, again, Bennett is there in North Carolina, and listen, black women in North Carolina should be pissed off right now. What they are doing to this sister is shameful, because she dared complain about the lack of diversity in the judicial system. Oh my God. Oh, I really hurt some feelings on that one. I mean, this is the continual attack on diversity, equity, inclusion, multiculturalism. How dare you bring these things up? We want to get rid of you.
Roland, I tell people often I served time in North Carolina. I love my time at Bennett, but North Carolina is an interesting state. It's not purple. You know, we'd like to think of it as purple, and they have elected some good Democrats, but the Southern conservatism is riddled through the legislature there. Congresswoman Alma Adams was on Bennett's faculty, and when the Republicans took the ledge back from the Democrats, they took that sister and put her like in a closet. She'd had a nice big old, put her in a closet. They decided to divide offices not by seniority, as is usually done, but by some other matrix that nobody could figure out. I'm not surprised at anything that happens in North Carolina, but as you said, every black woman in North Carolina ought to be totally pissed off. And beyond that, any black woman in North Carolina who stays home, there ought to be a reckoning. We cannot afford to stay home. Everything is being decided such slim margins that when you stay home, you're basically giving somebody else your power. This sister on the court was doing a good job. What is the problem? This white boy is just upset because she had the nerve to open her mouth. Well, I'm glad that she's suing for her First Amendment rights because she has a right to her opinion. She didn't go to the legislature and say the court is biased. And what she's saying is that there's an imbalance of power and there's little diversity. Who can argue with that?
Congo, the thing that I keep trying to say to folk, you can't just sit here and get pissed off and be mad and say stuff on social media. You can't just post all different sort of comments or whatever. The way to beat them is at the ballot box. And when you look at the numbers, I mean, bottom line is, if black folks had turned out, and frankly, Sheriff Beasley had not listened to her white consultants, okay, she could be the United States Senator. And so this is how you beat them. You defeat them at the ballot box.
And this is something that you've also always said on your show, is the importance of us not channeling all our funds and resources towards like the DNC, but supporting local organizations on the ground that are doing the work to get this information out. When we see what's happening in North Carolina, as it has been said earlier, this is something that's happening all across the country. And it's happening in the judicial system. It's happening with our legislators as well. Look at what Ron DeSantis did, getting rid of suspending 20 plus legislators at different levels there. And so when it comes down to it, we have to continue to mobilize. But I think it's also important that we also make sure that we're speaking to what's happening to white folks in North Carolina as well, because in too many instances, we are seeing that they always start with black people. And when they see that other folks are not coalescing around them, they come for other people. That's how in the educational sense in Florida, they lost AP psychology. That's how in Roe v. Wade, they came after black issues. And now it's like, let's go after these rights as well. They never stop. And at what point do people who live in these districts who realize that these judges, these senators, these Congress people, they're not serving them anything. They're not doing anything to build their own communities. They only believe in the politics of power, and they're not doing anything empowering for their constituents. And if just being able to silence black people is enough for these folks, then that's all they're going to take. And so I really think at the end of the day, the fact that you're bringing this up, I don't hear anybody in all of these other news networks talking about North Carolina. But the last thing I will say is that these guys are all following Trump's example. Trump has made it clear that if he comes back in, he is going to be an autocrat. And people are feeling at every level they can start doing the same thing and start talking the same talk because they know that they got somebody at the top who's going to support them. And we have to counter that as well.
See, this here for me, Judith, and I guess what angers me, and I hear this right now, I hear people going, oh, I'm just not motivated to vote. Are you paying attention?
Right.
Are you paying attention to North Carolina, to Georgia, to Arkansas, the burning of books, Florida, Mississippi, Texas, what happened in Tennessee? There is no way in hell anybody watching or listening should even utter the phrase, I'm not motivated to vote, when you have a political party that literally has black people in their bull's eye and they are going after everything. That to me is insanity.
That's right. Roland, it's all on the line right now. I will say that being a civil rights lawyer for as long as I've been, I actually didn't think that we would get here, right? Like, I actually did not think that the turn back on Roe v. Wade, I knew they were always coming for it, but I didn't think that they'd actually get there, right? The rollbacks on affirmative action, the anti-woke movement, the book bans, it's all on the table. Right? It is the erasure of Black people and our history. It is the erasure and attacks on LGBTQ family members. It is the degradation of our very existence. They are coming for us. And if we don't understand that, because they understand what the change in demographics of America means for them, that those who are in power feel like we are losing power. And so they got to step up and take everything from us. And so this is our moment to either be complicit by sitting home or to step up and be involved. And that does mean working with groups on the ground. Like, I want to shout out the North Carolina Black Alliance, who the national organizations are working with, or if it's working with the national organizations. We don't have time to sit home, people. This is not the moment. The rising crime narrative, who are they coming for? Who are they saying are the criminals? Our children, who they're saying again are super predators. So they're after us. And so we've got to be ready to stand up, to fight, to go to the ballot box. But remember that it doesn't end on election day, that our work has got to be 365.
So here's why I will have to take exception, Judith. They told you they were coming after Roe v. Wade.
I know, but I'm saying I didn't think.
I did. Listen, when they tell you we doing something, I'm like, believe them, which means...
And they have the money, Roland. This is the other thing, is that they have the money, right? So what happened, Roe v. Wade wasn't overturned because of one case. Affirmative action wasn't overturned because of one case. But they have strategically chipped away year after year at these protections. The Voting Rights Act, year after year, they've brought redistricting cases. And so this is a conspiracy, people, right? This is intentional. They have the money. The Ed Blums of the world who are attacking affirmative action on every level, they have the money and they have had a plan that they have been executing for decades. And so I was in La La Land, but I know that this is happening and that we don't have a choice. We have to turn out and that we have to be engaged.
Hey, they're coming. And so anybody out there watching or listening, if Trump wins, they regain the Senate, I don't want to hear nobody black and nobody not black say, I didn't think they were going to go this far. You got Trump out here talking about executing General Milley and targeting the media as well. I believe every crazy thing his ass says, the Republicans will actually let him do it because they crave power. Judith, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, gonna go to break. We come back. More on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, we're going to hear from Vice President Kamala Harris, President Joe Biden, speaking to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, AOC, on Saturday night. Also, David Brooks got busted in a lie criticizing the prices at a airport restaurant when he really was down on a bunch of drinks. And then going to try to sit here and try to dance out of it. Come on, man. Stop tripping. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Staying balanced is tough enough with the normal day-to-day stuff going on. But what happens when we get the unexpected? It may come crashing down through a bad diagnosis for either you or a loved one.
My son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came at a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business.
How to cope and even stay balanced when even the walls are crashing in. That's on the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up? It's Sammy Roman. Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
It's been called one of the largest retail mergers in U.S. history. Kroger-Albertsons. It would give Kroger almost 5,000 stores nationwide with 700,000 workers before an undetermined number of store divestitures. Morgan Harper is with the American Economic Liberties Project. Joins me now from Columbus, Ohio, to discuss this. Okay, so Morgan, look, we've seen these mergers before. We've seen these companies do these things before. And what tends to happen is, a lot of times is layoffs, store closures. The grocery business is not a high profit margin business. Typically operates on 1% to 2% profit margins. And so what will this merger first mean for customers, food prices, and then employees?
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me. And you're right, you're identifying all these different harms that we anticipate will come from this merger. So one, we've already seen grocery prices, food prices increase a lot since the pandemic with inflation, and having Kroger-Albertsons as a merged company have even more market dominance is going to give them the power to increase prices even more. After this merger, they will dominate about 70% of regional grocery markets throughout the country. They'll also employ about 700,000 workers. So that means that there are fewer places for workers to go to try to get alternative jobs if they don't want to work at a Kroger-Albertsons, and they're just going to have to accept whatever wages Kroger's paying. So yeah, it's going to harm us as those who are buying food, which is pretty much everyone. It's going to harm people who work at Kroger's, which is a lot of people, especially where I'm based, in Ohio. And we're going to see it even harder for our independent grocery store owners, small business owners, to compete against this type of giant.
So it's interesting. I was sitting here reading this particular story here on Yahoo Finance. I'm going to show it in a second, where the author contends, go to my iPad, please. It says, why Kroger-Albertsons need to merge immediately to compete with Walmart. So when you hear that, when you hear this notion that, well, you got to have competition and this is the way to compete with Walmart, what do you say?
It's just wrong. And actually, how do we know? Because when a lot of our antitrust laws were passed about 100 years ago, we were in a similar type of market environment where we saw all these giants that were trying to control everything, control small business owners, consumers, workers. And Congress responded by passing our antitrust laws. Congress said, hey, the American economy doesn't benefit from just having a couple of giants. The American economy benefits when we have a diverse landscape of the economy in each market area. So in this case, smaller grocers, independent grocers, medium-sized grocers, in addition to some of these giants. And so, when we're in a situation right now where about 75% of customers are buying groceries from Walmart, who benefits the most from that? Walmart. When we have another giant like Kroger-Albertsons that this is allowed to go through, who's going to benefit the most? The giants. But what about the rest of us? We need to enforce our antitrust laws. That's why it's so great that we have new leadership in this Biden administration at the Federal Trade Commission that can potentially do what Congress intended in the first place over 100 years and make sure that we have real competition in the market.
To that particular point, 7 states have sent letters to the Federal Trade Commission. Go to my iPad. Those 7 states are all Democratic states. Secretaries of State from Colorado, Arizona, Maine, Minnesota, New Mexico, Rhode Island, and Vermont all said they said, quote, we are strongly opposed to this merger and urge you to stop this corporate consolidation that is draining Americans of their hard-earned wages and livelihoods. So, Morgan, with that, how again, putting on a crystal ball, look at a crystal ball, the FTC has been extremely aggressive in blocking mergers. What do you think happens here?
Well, one, I do want to note that there's bipartisan support for blocking this merger. So today we saw, Murkowski, a Republican senator from Alaska, who also came out saying that this is not going to benefit the workers and consumers in her state. Republican, right? So this is bipartisan. And, like I said, there's new leadership at the Federal Trade Commission that is doing what Congress intended, actually enforcing laws. I think that the Federal Trade Commission probably learned a lot from a similar situation in 2015 where Albertsons was merging with Safeway. They approved that. They had these promises from the companies that they weren't going to close stores, that it was going to keep prices low, that it was going to benefit workers. And we know that none of those things happened. And that's why we're seeing something like the UFCW, the international union that represents a lot of Kroger employees and Albertsons employees, saying, hell no, Federal Trade Commission, block this. So I anticipate that we'll probably see a different course of action than we saw in 2015 under this new leadership with Chair Lina Khan. And at the best, all we can do is hope and see, but that's the right thing to do. That would be aligning with congressional intent here to maintain competition in the grocery market.
All right, then, Morgan. Harper, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for having me.
The thing here on Macongo is when we talk about Wall Street, these are different companies. Look, they're always talking about scale. Get bigger to be able to compete. But what often happens is, despite all the promises, if you're one of those people who are working there, it don't necessarily end up well for you when layoffs come, because what happens? When these mergers take place, they take on more debt, and in order to service that debt, they got to cut. Well, what's the highest cost for any company? Labor.
Yep. And I think really at the end of the day, the members of the union who Ms. Harper spoke about, they need to start getting their ducks in a row right now. You see Biden, going to the picket line tomorrow with the auto workers and the like. there shouldn't be any group, any organization in this country, any group of labor in this country that feels like people are not coming for them. And kind of going off to our last segment, I think some of these guys, these corporate guys are emboldened. They may think Trump's going to get back in power and be as anti-union as he was before, and they can kind of start getting away with this because maybe new leadership's going to come in. But for the people who are on the ground, the workers, we hoping that the FTC comes through for them, but you can't wait for that. Because even as it stands right now, they already feel like, I'm sure, in a position that they're not getting the respect that they deserve. Otherwise, this type of merger wouldn't even be happening. And so we know what's going to happen. We know there's going to be the layoffs, the store closures, everything that was just mentioned. Those workers need to start organizing now. Because even if the FTC blocks this, we all know these companies, they do not give up. They will find some other way, some other type of proposal, stay within the margins of what the FTC maybe suggests happens. They are going to do everything possible to try to make this merger happen one way or the other. And so the labor, they got to get organized. They got to start now.
Julian, from an economic standpoint, how do these mergers tend to work out for workers and consumers?
Well, you said it earlier. Basically, costs are going to go up. They're spending a lot of money to basically, quote, merge. They're spending a lot of money. They're going to have to borrow some of it. They borrow some of it, they're going to have to cut other costs. And those costs are going to be workers. In addition, what we've already seen in this past year really is costs of food going up. People spending more money for food. They'll spend even more if this merger is allowed to go through. The reason why the Federal Trade Commission has an interest in how capital is organized is because they're creating a near monopoly. And they've cut out how they explain why. They want to compete with Walmart. Well, they're not going to have the volume of Walmart, but what they're going to be able to do is, as Sister just said, they're going to be able to knock out a lot of small grocery stores. They will probably close some grocery stores. Workers are going to be much worse off, but consumers are the ones who are going to be the most worse off, because when you go to pay for your groceries and you find you're paying 4, 5, 10% more, that hits you where you live. Wages have been stagnant since the 70s, going up a little bit here and a little bit there. This is a very bad move. I don't even know how it's gotten to be this far. But as Sister said, the FTC has new leadership. That new leadership is not likely to let this go through. The previous FTC was, of course, Rump appointed, and their interests are predatory capitalism. So this is a bad move, and we need to. I'm glad that these legislators or secretaries of state in 7 states have written to say stop it, but there have to be more. And what we have to see is a bipartisan pushback on this, because Republicans and Democrats both buy groceries. And so if you care about your constituents, you have to look at this. But, you know, too many of these folks, they don't care about their constituents. They care about themselves. They're amassing power basically sector by sector by sector in the judiciary, in the legislature, and in corporate governance and corporate organization. This is, again, I repeat myself, this is a very bad idea.
All right. All right, hold tight 1 second. We come back. Another bad idea, shutting the federal government down, but Republicans are hell-bent on doing that. We'll discuss that and what it means for African Americans. Plus, Vice President Kamala Harris, President Joe Biden both speak to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, ALC. We'll show you some of what both of them had to say about what they have done for Black America. That is next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Watching on YouTube, hit the like button right now, folks. Critically important. It impacts the algorithm, so please do so. Also, support our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zale, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Plus, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. We'll be right back.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, less than 5% of the top executive positions in corporate America are held by women of color. We know it's not because of talent. A recent study says that it's microaggressions, unconscious bias, and limited opportunities being offered to women of color. On our next show, we're going to get incredible advice from Francine Parham, who's recently written a book sharing exactly what you need to do to make it up into the management ranks and get the earnings that you deserve.
I made a point to sit down and I made a point to talk to people. And I made a point to be very purposeful and thought-provoking when I spoke to them.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Frank.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, Tuesday. Guess what? The idiots are back in town. All right, we're 6 days from possible government shutdown, and normally members of Congress come back on Tuesday, and so that means the crazy right-wingers are back as well. They're going to vote on a series of year-long spending bills. However, federal departments and agencies have begun plans to bring non-essential functions to a halt. If it fails to pass a short-term spending bill, nearly 4 million federal employees will feel the effect immediately. Essential workers will remain on the job, but others will be furloughed until the shutdown is over. None will be paid during the impasse. With government funding slated to run out in 6 days, the leaders of a bipartisan House caucus said all options are on the table to avert a looming shutdown. Here's Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Well, I've never seen a group that is as hell-bent on a shutdown as these crazy MAGA Republicans, that small group. But I am still hopeful. I am still optimistic that once the Senate acts in a bipartisan, adult, mature, and way that cares about the American people and what they'd be through, that maybe the House will follow our example. I know that Leader Jeffries, the Democratic leader, is ready to work with Speaker McCarthy. Speaker McCarthy just has to realize that following these hard right people is like following people over a cliff.
You said you think the speaker should work with Democrats, but you know the politics over there. If he does that, he's going to face a vote to try to push him out of the speakership. Are you at all cognizant of that? Are you concerned about what could come next if he is pushed out?
Well, you know, the bottom line is that these guys have threatened, and finally they came to their senses when it came to the debt ceiling. The bipartisan bill passed both houses, and it worked to the benefit of America. I think he's got to eyeball them and saying, I cannot go along with you. Don't you dare shut down the government. And I think he'd have the support of the overwhelming majority of Republicans in his caucus if he did that. The people who push for a shutdown and say, unless you do it my way, I'm going to shut down the government, almost always lose and lose politically.
Well, then, of course, you've got House Democrats, progressives, who are very clear about how inept Kevin McCarthy is as House Speaker. Listen to this.
But instead of trying to get to resolution, instead of sticking to the deal that Speaker McCarthy himself made with President Biden around funding levels for the government spending, McCarthy has handed his gavel to Marjorie Taylor Greene and the extremists in his party. He has 10 days to pass a clean continuing resolution to keep the government funded. But guess what he's doing instead? is wasting time on political stunts, throwing out a baseless, absurd impeachment inquiry of President Biden like a shiny new object that he hopes will save his position as Speaker of the House and will distract you from the fact that Republicans have been unable to pass 11 out of the 12 spending bills, their own spending bills that they drafted with the majority, and they have been unable to pass those. But instead of trying to get to resolution,
Sounds to me like some people who can't get their act together. What we're looking at here, and again, what we're talking about here are not a lot of people, Julian. I mean, that's important people to understand. We're not talking about a lot of people. In fact, it's these hard right conservatives who, and about 20 of them, who are holding all of this up. President Joe Biden today, when he spoke to the media, he met with HBCU presidents today in the Roosevelt Room, and this is him talking about the looming government shutdown.
Well, anyway, in the meantime, I want to say a word about those in Congress who are willing to shut down the government. Just a few months ago, the Speaker of the House and I agreed to spending levels for the government. We were up right to the very edge, almost reneged on our debt, and that we're going to fund essential priorities and still cut the deficit by $1 trillion over the next decade. Now a small group of extreme House Republicans, they don't want to live up to that deal, and everyone in America could be faced with paying the price for that. We're changing it. We made a deal. We shook hands. We said this is what we're going to do, and now they're reneging on the deal, which is not much of a surprise these days. And the black community in particular is going to suffer if that occurs. For example, shutdown is going to risk nutrition assistance to nearly 7 million moms and children. It's going to disproportionately affect black families. The Department of Housing and Urban Development will have to stop nearly all its enforcement work fighting housing discrimination. EPA would have to stop its important work bringing environmental justice in frontline and fence line communities because most of the inspections and hazardous waste sites and chemical facilities would come to a halt. Historic work we're doing to increase the share of federal contract dollars going to small disadvantaged businesses would be disrupted. Funding the government is one of the most basic fundamental responsibilities of Congress, and if the Republicans in the House don't start doing their job, we should stop electing them. Now,
look, Julian, you're dealing with, again, a bunch of crazed, deranged Republicans on the House side. They can't keep their caucus straight. So if I'm Democrats, I let them screw it all up and blame them every day of the week.
Well, Roland, I think we'll do that. But the fact is that if government closes, as the president has said, as we all know, our people, black people, will face a disproportionate burden. Basically, 18.2% of federal workers are African American. And so closed government, black folks suffer. The brother from, I forget the name of the union, but he was on one of the networks this morning talking about how people are going to be hurt. And the fact that federal salaries people think federal government workers make a lot of money. They don't. And so many of these folks, missing one paycheck could be catastrophic. Missing one paycheck could mean any number of things regarding eviction and car repossession, because there's so many people who are living on the edge. I mean, there was a recent Federal Reserve study that said that most people had less than $400 in savings. So you don't get your paycheck from which you pay your rent, your car note, et cetera, your utilities. You're skating on the edge. Now, probably, but not certainly, if they close government, it'll reopen within a week to 10 days, 2 weeks. But those folks, and people will get their money. They usually pay people when they're out, but they'll get their money on a delayed basis. Landlord gonna wait that long? Not necessarily. This is very problematic. And, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and these, you were very kind in calling them deranged. I mean, there are probably some more appropriate words that basically, insanity, delusionism. It's really crazy because guess what? They can take McCarthy's gavel if they want to. Then what they're going to do, have another 15 votes to try to get a new speaker because there's no obvious candidate for Speaker, we are sitting inside of a situation where the Republicans, again, we talked about it earlier in this program, they're just grabbing power. Why? Because they want it. And nobody is prepared or willing to tell them there are no reasonable Republicans, or there are a few, but I mean, stop it, y'all. Just stop it. I mean, and if McCarthy has to go to the Democrats, yes, he should. And they want to take his gavel, let him take it. Then what they gonna do?
McConnell?
Look, we've called them all a bunch of names. At the end of the day, these guys, they are nihilists. They want to destroy the system in every way, shape, or form. And it's not just those in the House. You got people, Sean Hannity, talking on Fox, talking about, oh, the shutdown's going to be fine. It won't be a big deal. People will still get paid, sitting there completely lying to the American people. This is what they want. Matt Gaetz is out there just trying to become famous by any means necessary. And so he's going to push something like this. Look, Mitch McConnell said it. Every time there's a shutdown, Republicans never come out on the right side of this in terms of how they look, in terms of how they perceived. They had a government shutdown under the Trump administration where the Republicans ran everything. So if this is going to happen under them, why wouldn't it happen right now? And so really at the end of the day, we have to understand that one of the biggest challenges that we have to understand is that even if the shutdown was averted, Roland, the anxiety that it creates for families, the anxiety about, whether it's going to happen this week, whether it's going to happen 2 months down the line, always kicking the can down the line, even that alone is enough to break people. And Dr. Malveau's talking about regular expenses. What's going to start happening next month? Student loans are going to start having to be repaid for many people. So it's one thing after another. And if we don't get this under wraps now by isolating these guys, McCarthy's going to have to do what he has to do. And some people say, well, if McCarthy goes, we got to worry about who's coming up after them. We got to worry about now. And we got to worry about finally, having these representatives, Republicans finally take a stand against these extremists and really doing what is necessary. But I'm telling you, Roland, these guys want the destruction. Look at what they're doing with Tuberville and the military. They want to dismantle every aspect of government because they want to see its destruction. This is a continuation of the insurrection.
Indeed it is, but this is sort of how they operate and what they're involved in, and they're not going to stop. So that's what we generally expect from them. All right, folks, going to a quick break. We come back. This video has gone viral, showing a little black girl waiting to get her medal. Never gets it. White woman just walks right past her if she doesn't exist. It's caused a significant reaction on social media. We'll tell you about all of that next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our
So
stuff.
please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Hey, what's up? Geek Tony in the place to be. Got Kicked Out Your Mama's University, creator and executive producer of Fat Tuesdays and Air Hip Hop Comedy. But right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
A video from last year showing a black gymnast just completely being ignored by a white woman in Ireland that's been circulating across social media. Here's a video right here. Now you see this video, and so she's awarding these medals. She just walked past the black girl. Like you see, the first 4 white girls got medals. The first 4 white girls got medals. The black girl is like, okay. So they skip the black girl and go to the next white girl, the next white girl, then the next white girl, the next white girl. Then she goes, oh, I don't have enough medals. So let me go get another medal for the next white girl. The black girl is looking like, and you see, and it just goes on and on and on. That young black girl never got a medal. This took place in March of 2022. And there was a competition there that, again, just showed, like the black girl's looking like, okay, what, like, okay, is anybody gonna get me my medal? And you see it, they taking pictures of the other girls and everything like that. Well, Olympic champion Simone Biles condemned the incident and last year reached out to the young athlete. And she sent her a personal video. Gymnastics Ireland says they issued a public apology for the incident after the girl's parents said the alleged snub was due to racism. Now, here's part of what the Irish sporting body had to say about the resurfaced video. Quote, we are aware of a video that's been posted on social media relating to an incident that took place over 18 months ago at a Gym Start event in March 2022, for which we received a complaint from the parents of one of our members. Subsequently, both parties agreed to intermediation, which was independently facilitated by Sports Dispute Solutions Ireland as per our policy procedure, which led to a resolution agreed to by both parties in August 2023. According to reports, the young girl's mother said they have not received a genuine apology. Gymnastics Ireland says the woman handing out the medals is no longer a member of a sporting body after she chose not to renew her membership. I mean, this right here is Julia, is just blatant racism. And the parents of the young girl are upset because this thing is now blown up. They've said Gymnastics Ireland should get this video removed because they don't want blowback to them, death threats to them for calling these folks out.
You know, it's blatant racism, and beyond that, the response was so tepid that it's not even funny. And the fact that this happened, what was there to mediate? I mean, they didn't give the girl the medal. There's no need for mediation. And that just took 18 months then to resolve this nonsense. And in resolving it, I saw the so-called apology. It was sent not to the young lady, not to her parents, but to whom it may concern. Excuse me? That's really an apology? I mean, this...
No. That was the initial statement. But then they actually released, because again, they've been getting their asses lit up. They actually released a public apology. Go to my iPad. So this dropped today. Again, 18 months later, they go, on behalf of the board and staff of Gymnastics Ireland, we would like to unreservedly apologize to the gymnast and her family for the upset that has been caused by the incident at the Gym Start event in March 2022. What happened on the day should not have happened, and for that we are deeply sorry. We're also sorry that what has happened since that date has caused further upset. Please know that at all times we have been acting in good faith and with the best of intentions in trying to resolve this very difficult and sensitive matter. We offered an in-person apology after the incident as we believe this was the best approach. Subsequently, we felt mediation was the best way forward. We know now we need to do more. We are committed to ensuring nothing like this will happen again. We appointed an independent expert to review our policies and procedures earlier this year, and a series of recommendations have resulted, which we are fully committed to implementing so that this does not ever happen again. We would also like to engage with the Gymnast family and Sport Against Racism Ireland to listen to any suggestions they have as to how our procedures can be improved in this regard. We're happy to see that the gymnast continues to participate in Gymnastics Ireland events, and we look forward to welcoming her back to our future events also. Finally, we would like to make it absolutely clear that Gymnastics Ireland condemns any form of racism whatsoever. This is how you fix this, Julian. Hand out the damn medals.
Yeah. I mean, you walk by the girl, and you can see it in her face. She's wondering, and what happened? You know, this is a child. This is a young person. This is such a it's just ridiculous. The woman who's handing the medals ought to be fired. Now, in one of the news stories I saw, they said it was nothing personal. It was inadvertent. How you inadvertently walk over the only black child who's standing there and look at her little face? I mean, it's ridiculous.
You know what? Hold up. Listen to this here. Let's take black out. How you got by 15 girls lined up and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, skip, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That was very clear. You don't accidentally skip 4 to 6.
No, as I said, the woman needs to be fired. She should not be involved in, what do they call Sports Ireland?
Forget her membership. Congo, be banned for life.
Hello.
Yeah, and they try to say, well, she didn't renew her membership, so she's no longer a part of the organization. So basically, we wash your hands as it relates to her. But no, there's other sanctions and things I'm sure that she could suffer. Again, we go back to the fact this is March 2022. In one of my chapters in my book, Lies About Black People, I talk about how racism is global and anti-blackness is global. And this is just another example of that. The fact that this is only getting attention now because it's gone viral speaks to where Gymnastics Ireland has been and probably will be once this video stops becoming a story. And to see, her look, the look on her face, to see all the people around her who also aren't saying anything, photographers, photographer sitting there taking pictures. Hey, you forgot to put that medal on. So, no one is sticking up for this girl in this particular moment. And as beautiful as it is that, Simone Biles, reached out to the family and is speaking up and is condemning it, that's not where we should be stopping. Where's the International Gymnastics Association or whoever is over these types of things? They should be penalizing this organization for not taking real effective action. Because we see in these incidents, whether we're talking about kids coming to school and getting in-school suspension because their hair's too long, allegedly, or whether we're seeing kids get reprimanded for, that their hair's not looking right at a game, or they're not. All of these issues are traumatizing, and kids never forget these situations. And now this is going to be a global situation, and no one has had to pay any real consequences for this. And like you said in the beginning of the segment, we got to be concerned for the family, because it's not like they're in Brooklyn where they could still, get some threats, of course. It's not like they're in Houston where they could still get some threats. They're in Leinster, Ireland. You know what I mean? And so people will come at them. People will try to find their social media and other places. And so they're going to need some forms of protection. And I understand the family wanted to make sure that, they're protected. But at the end of the day, if people took a stand back then, we wouldn't be in this situation now. So shame on that organization. And I hope that if the girl is still competing in gymnastics, she's found some other type of outlet, because they didn't say she's still competing with us. They just said she's still competing. But that whole family deserved better, and the whole association let them down.
And let's be real clear, the reason this happened is because Simone Biles made that comment. First of all, the story was done in The Guardian. Go to my iPad. This is what the family said. And this story, this dropped, looking for a few days ago. It says, Gymnastics Ireland suppressed a personal apology letter. No, wrong. I don't want to pull that up yet. Let's see here. I'm gonna pull up this story here. Don't want to pull that up. I'm gonna pull this story here up. All right. Let's see if we have it here. Story's not showing up. But the mother of the girl said that Gymnastics Ireland officials declined to attend mediation, effectively casting the incident from March 2022 as a purely personal dispute between the family and one woman. The governing body did not make any commitment in public statements to investigate the incident, implementing anti-racism policies to improve protection for athletes of color. For 18 months, it did not apologize to the family. Quote, it's unbelievable that you treated a little girl this way. It's a systemic problem, because when you don't speak out, the message is that you are happy for it to go on. And here's the whole deal. If it wasn't for and so when the video went viral, folks, this is what happened here. Somebody posted, I would love to see Simone Biles reach out to this girl if she's able. Biles said, when this video was circulating, her parents reached out. It broke my heart to see, so I sent her a little video. There's no room for racism in any sport or at all. And guess what? It was Simone Biles' tweet that caused these folks to issue the apology today. They had no intention. She embarrassed them into a public apology.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she did.
3 days later, 3 days after that statement on the 22nd from Simone Biles, that statement came. And so really, when it comes down to it, these are situations, this is a public and international story, but these types of situations are happening every single day to our children. They're being minimized and marginalized and having these experiences that are going to stay with them. And we have to make sure that we're always calling it out, because if we don't, like you said, nothing would have happened if it wasn't for Simone speaking on this.
All right, so we come back Julianne, real quick.
I just said at 18 months. I mean, this happened in March of 22. So the 18 months is as egregious as everything. They were happy to let this go down, except for the fact that Simone Biles spoke up. They were happy to brush this under the rug, and that we wear the mask that grins and lies. It's just so egregious.
Indeed. All right, folks, we come back. Another story where social media was at play, and the person who started it, his ass was lying and got busted. I'm talking about New York Times conservative columnist David Brooks, when he had a few words to say about a burger and fries and a drink costing $78. Man, did he get lit up by social media. And we have the owner of that restaurant next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Elijah Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Staying balanced is tough enough with the normal day-to-day stuff going on. But what happens when we get the unexpected? It may come crashing down through a bad diagnosis for either you or a loved one.
My son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came at a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business.
How to cope and even stay balanced when even the walls are crashing in. That's on the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hello, we're the Critter Fixers. I'm Dr. Bernard Hodges.
And I'm Dr. Terrence Ferguson.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks. 4 days ago, David Brooks, the conservative columnist for the New York Times, posted on social media this. So he claimed that he was sitting in, this is what he said, this meal just cost me $78 at Newark Airport. This is why Americans think the economy is terrible. And what you see is a burger, fries, and a drink. Well, things didn't go well from there because folks immediately posted on social media that if you order a burger and fries, it's gonna cost you $17. And so clearly the other 61 had to be alcohol. Looks like homie had more than one drink. Yeah, y'all, that's what happened. Now, the restaurant owners responded to David Brooks by saying, looks like someone was knocking back some serious drinks. Bar tab was almost 80%, and he's complaining about the cost of his meal. Keep drinking, buddy. We get paid off everything. And they didn't stop there. They created a cheeky blue plate special in David's honor. It is called the D. Brooks Special at 1911 Smoke House BBQ, which includes burgers, fries, and a double shot of whiskey for $17.78. Maurice Hallett, the owner of 1911 Smokehouse BBQ, joins us right now. Maurice, glad to have you here. Now, David Brooks was asked about this on, I think it was a show on PBS over the weekend. It was a Friday or Saturday. And he addressed this And I got to go ahead and play it because even I find this to be utterly laughable, what he had to say. So let me get this lined up right now. Then, so here we go.
And we can put this up on screen.
So here's David being asked about this post. Go.
David, before we go, I want to ask you about this tweet that you put out this week where, and we can put this up on screen, you posted this tweet that showed dinner that you were having at an airport and that it cost $78. And you wrote, "This is why the American people think the economy is terrible." You got roughed up a little bit online about this, but I'm just curious more about what you were trying to convey with that.
Yeah, well, first it started out hatched in my mind as a joke, because if you looked at what I was eating, it was bourbon and a very fattening hamburger and fries. So
delicious dinner.
I can't afford to make bad lifestyle choices. But the problem with the tweet, which I wrote so stupidly, was that it made it seem like I was oblivious to something that is blindingly obvious, that an upper middle class journalist having a bourbon at an airport is a lot different than a family living paycheck to paycheck. And when I'm getting sticker shock, it's like an inconvenience. When they're getting sticker shock, it's a disaster. And so I was insensitive. I screwed up. I should not have written that tweet. I probably should not write any tweets. But
that's advice we should all be taking.
But I made a mistake, and it was stupid. But the one point that is maybe can be drawn, if anything can be drawn, was you can experience inflation as a chart with downward slope. Inflation's coming down, but the way we experience inflation day to day is as that moment of sticker shock. You're in the grocery store, you're at the gas station, and suddenly costs something way more than you anticipated. And for people who are less fortunate than I am, that is a disaster. And so we have to understand why we say inflation's coming down, but for people living and seeing those sticker shock moments, it doesn't feel that way.
David.
Okay, Maurice, how shall I begin this? That answer was absolutely bullshit. Dude, not, oh, I shouldn't have wrote it, I was being snarky. No, you lied. He literally lied. What he should have said was, you know what? The burger and fries was $17, and I actually ordered 3 drinks. And the drinks are like $20 each. No, you lied. And so don't give me the lesson learned. He lied about the cost of the meal at your restaurant.
Yes, he did. And he gave a half apology. Anytime you apologize and you throw in a but, that negates the apology.
But that wasn't even an apology, though. Because it was, well, sure, let me explain my way out of this, and, well, it was this. Like, at no point did he come clean and say, you know what? I ordered a burger and a fries and a drink. And that anchor was horrible. The anchor's, you kind of got roughed up a little bit. No. See, this is my problem with these people in D.C. And this is my problem when Trump came in. They don't want to use the word, dude, why don't you lie?
Yeah.
Why don't you lie? I would have said, David, how many drinks did you order? Never asked that.
As somebody that enjoys bourbons at the airport, I appreciate that he at least came out and said that he had a few bourbons when he was there.
So this thing blows up. And just, what is your immediate reaction when you see this photo and people going like, oh my God, you guys are charging $78 for a burger, fries, and a drink?
Yeah, I've actually had a couple negative reviews based on someone thinking that I was charging $78 for a burger. But luckily, the 40+ million people that saw it, the majority of them realized that there was a lot of drinking that was involved. And the burger and fries was $17.
And so this special y'all created, so what happened there? Did y'all sit back and go, how can we go ahead and maximize this moment?
Exactly. We already have what we call a C-Rock special, which is homage to one of Chris Rock's first movies, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, where he's asked for the cost of one rib. So I'm just like, you know what?
How much I order a rib?
Yeah.
One rib.
Like, let's do a D. Brooks special. We'll put it right under the C-Rock special. And it's going to be a permanent fixture on the menu.
You said you got a couple of negative responses, but have you had a number of positive responses from people who felt this was an unfair attack on your restaurant?
It was overwhelmingly supportive. I mean, it's been great support. I mean, the last couple of days has been amazing with all the interviews from people like yourself. It's just been amazing. So great support for the brand. And it's perfect timing because I'm opening up a new location in Willingboro, New Jersey. So you can't pay for this kind of advertising.
And so have you seen an increase in sales in the last 4 days?
Yes, we've definitely seen an increase in sales. I mean, there's people that are, making a point to come visit us, which is great.
All right, so the restaurant is located because you're in the Newark airport?
We're in the Newark airport, but our original restaurant is downtown historic Trenton.
Okay, got it. So you have a brick and mortar in downtown Trenton, but you also have a location in the Newark airport.
Yes, and then we're opening in the next 3 to 4 weeks in Willingboro, New Jersey.
Gotcha. And look, I travel all the time, and bottom line is anybody knows that stuff in the airport is expensive. I'll be honest with you, a burger and a fry. So just be clear, is the burger and the fries $17 or with the drink too?
No, in my restaurant,
yeah,
drink is $17.78. You get a double shot of whiskey.
Well, first of all, I don't drink, so that'll never happen, But here's what's crazy to me, though. I mean,
that's only in Trenton and Willingboro, not at the airport. It's going to be there's fine print more at the airport.
Oh hell yeah, it's going to be more at the airport. I mean, the reason I was laughing because look, what kills me is when you going to the airport and they trying to charge you $6 for a bottle of water, and you looking like, y'all seriously? So when he's complaining, anybody who flies knows what's going to cost more at the airport. I just guess for me, it was just such a blatant lie, and now the inability to actually own up to the lie. And look, I get increasing prices and people concerned about rising inflation, but this was him trying to say, "Ooh, I'm like everybody else. No, dude, stop it." You lied, and that's my biggest problem here. David Brooks of the New York Times lied about the cost of the meal and never owned up to all that he purchased.
Agreed.
Question from my panel. Omakongo, you first.
So I can't wait to check out one of your restaurants now, now that this is going on. Do you have any concern that, how everything is just heightened nowadays, that people are going to try to figure out some ways to add this to some form of, culture wars type thing, and it'll go a little bit beyond bad reviews to people maybe trying to protest in front of your restaurant because these guys are just looking for some type of random cause to get attached to get some type of quote unquote anti-woke attention?
I am not really worried about it because, as you can see, with me going, back at him when I saw his tweet, hey, I'm going to defend my baby. My brand is my baby, so we're going to defend it. And as you see, we got a lot of support. So it was surprising to me how much support we got, and it's nice to see the, 30, 40 million people that are happy to get behind and support small businesses, especially small Black businesses.
No.
Julian?
My brother, first of all, I'm proud of you. I want to be able to come to one of your restaurants as well. I don't frequent Jersey very often, but I'm going to make it a point to get by there, to get one of those specials or other. Number two, Brooks said he didn't know why he sent it. I'm going to tell you why he sent it, the tweet. Because his behind was drunk. He had 3 doubles, and he had had too much to drink. And he was grousing with himself about his $78, which if he had just got a burger, he would have got out of there with, and a nice tip, he would have got out of there with $23. So, he let his liquor do his talking for him, and he ought to be ashamed. But right on to you. Question about your new restaurant. How you're doing so well that you've expanded to a 3rd location. What's going to make the 3rd one different from 1 and 2?
Well, the 3rd one is, like I said, it's in Willingboro, New Jersey. It's a standalone restaurant. It solves all the problems I had from my first restaurant, which is I have limited parking. It's a smaller location. So this one is, own parking. I have a drive-through, large space, and it's going to be amazing. The town is already rallying around us. They're waiting for us to come. And then advertisement like this is just helping let everybody know that we're coming.
Congratulations.
Question for you. 1911 Smoke House BBQ. Where did the name come from?
Yeah, that's the founding of my fraternity. I see your fraternity on your shirt. I wore my logo shirt, but I guess I should have wore my Kappa.
Hell no. You were right to wear that damn shirt. You come here with that Kappa shirt, it would have been a problem.
Yeah, so I'm one of those OK noobs from Lehigh University.
Yeah, okay, well, okay, all right. Well, Scott Bolden was here. He'll be happy. Because normally when we have business owners who are doing great things, 9.8 out of 10 times they alphas. But at least to see some Kappa doing something right.
I'm going to let you get away with that. This is your show.
You got no choice. Plus, you know, unlike David Brooks, I ain't lying. All right. If folks, first of all, where can people reach out online if they want to get more information?
Website is www.1911bbq.com. And then we're on all social medias, Instagram. And I guess I need to get a Twitter account.
Yeah, dog. You need to get a Twitter, a spill. Y'all on Instagram?
We're on Instagram. Yes, we are.
Right. First of all, and then also fan base. Black-owned social media app, so get fan base as well. All right, then, Maurice, good luck. And I'm sure I can't wait to see if David Brooks comes in for that D. Brooks special.
I hope he does. I'll even have a bourbon with him.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
All right, you have a good one.
All right, folks, coming back, some breaking news out of Alabama regarding the redistricting case. Also, we'll hear from Vice President Kamala Harris, President Joe Biden, who both spoke at CBCF ALC on Saturday night. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Be sure to support us in what we do. Folks, join our Bring the Fuck fan club. So your chicken money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And also, of course, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Buy my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America's Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Download the audio version on Audible. I'll be right back.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, less than 5% of the top executive positions in corporate America are held by women of color. We know it's not because of talent. A recent study says that it's microaggressions, unconscious bias, and limited opportunities being offered to women of color. On our next show, we're going to get incredible advice from Francine Parham, who's recently written a book sharing exactly what you need to do to make it up into the management ranks and get the earnings that you deserve.
I made a point to sit down and I made a point to talk to people. And I made a point to be very purposeful and thought-provoking when I spoke to them.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter.
We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Trudy Proud on the Proud Family.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Proud.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder, Disney Plus. And I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Folks, Philadelphia Police Department needs our help locating Deshaun Williams, who's been missing since September 24th. The 11-year-old is 4 feet 11 inches tall, weighs 96 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Deshaun was last seen wearing a red and black hooded sweatshirt and blue jeans with rips on the front. Anyone with information on Deshaun Williams is asked to call Philadelphia's Northwest Detective Division, 215-686-3353, 215-686-3353. The Black Texas high school student who continues to get suspended because of his lock hairstyle is filing a lawsuit. According to Barbers Hill Independent School District officials, Daryl George's hairstyle violates the dress and grooming code. The George family filed a formal complaint with the Texas Education Agency alleging Daryl was being harassed and mistreated by school district officials over his hair and that his in-school suspension violated the Crown Act, which took effect September 1st. The code states that male students' hair will not extend at any time below the eyebrows or their ear lobes. All right, folks, the next story here, another interesting story here, and that is, first of all, free COVID tests, first of all, starting today. The Biden administration has put this back on track, these free COVID tests. They're available online at covidtest.gov, COVID tests.gov as part of a relaunch program to provide free home tests. The program was suspended in May after the end of the public health emergency to preserve the U.S. stockpile. The return of the free test comes as COVID-19 hospitalizations have more than tripled what they were just 2 months ago. Vice President Kamala Harris continues her Fight for Our Freedoms college tour. On Tuesday, she's going to be, she's going to be at Morehouse College in Atlanta and in Miami. On Thursday at Florida International University for moderated conversations about reproductive freedom, gun safety, climate change, and voting rights. According to the White House, the goal is to energize young voters on critical issues that disproportionately impact them directly. Harris is already stopped by Hampton and North Carolina A&T universities. All right, folks, speaking of Vice President Kamala Harris, on Saturday night, she spoke to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, ALC, at the Phoenix Awards Gala. And here is some of what she had to say.
The CBC has always been a conscience of our country, a truth teller. Truths about where we have been and where we must go. Tonight, let us continue to speak truth. Across America, there is a full-on attack on many of the hard-fought, hard-won freedoms that the CBC has achieved. The freedom to vote, to teach America's full history, to address inequity and diversity, to love who you love, to access education, health care, and economic opportunity, and the freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body. And on that last point, let us be clear. Just consider the highest court in our land, the Court of Thurgood, just took a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America from the women of America. And as a result, in state after state across our country, extremist so-called leaders passed laws to criminalize doctors and punish women, many with no exception even for rape or incest. And let us be clear, one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. And so many of us decided before the midterms to take it to the streets, to energize, to organize and mobilize. And let us remember all those pundits who predicted a red wave. Well, that didn't happen. Instead, up and down the ballot, the American people elected leaders who stand for freedom and liberty, including several new members of this very caucus. Together, the CBC is helping to lead the fight for reproductive freedom, just as you continue to lead the fight for civil rights. And I do believe the right to be safe is also a civil right. Today, however, gun violence is the #1 cause of death for children in America. But instead of protecting our children, extremists obstruct. We all know the story of the Justins. Silenced microphones, expulsion from the chamber, so outrageous that the next morning I got on Air Force 2 and flew down to Nashville, where I saw thousands of young leaders with the courage, determination, and moral clarity to demand action. Demanding, as we all do, red flag laws, universal background checks, and a renewal of the assault weapons ban. And CBC, please let us just take a moment to call out the hypocrisy that while we try to ban assault weapons, they try to ban books. We want to keep guns out of schools. They want to keep books out of schools. And it does not stop there. In Florida, they intend to tell our children that enslaved people benefited from slavery, and then proposed a debate on this point. Well, I said when I went down to Florida, there is no round table, no lecture, no invitation we will accept to debate an undeniable fact: there were no redeeming qualities to slavery. I have also been on a national college tour to convene our best and brightest on the importance of defending our hard-fought freedoms. And with great joy, I can report back, these young leaders are in the fight because they know it does not have to be this way. They know when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, that our president, Joe Biden, will sign it. When Congress renews the assault weapons ban, President Joe Biden will sign it. And when you pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, Joe Biden will sign them.
Speaking of President Joe Biden, we'll hear what he had to say next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shutdown.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Franklin. It is always a pleasure to be in the house. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
President Joe Biden spoke before the CBCF-ALC on Saturday after the vice president. Here are some of his remarks.
In February 1971, the year before I got to the United States Senate 200 years ago, 13 black members of Congress determined to create a better future and leverage their collective strength formed the Congressional Black Caucus. The conscience of Congress calling us to follow our nation's North Star, a light for the dreams and the pains, the centuries of enslaved people in America. The idea, once the most simple and the most powerful idea in the history of the world, that we're all created equal and deserve to be treated equally throughout our entire lives. We've never lived up to that fully, but we've never walked away from it either. Look, because of members of CBC, I think about the progress we've made together in the past 2.5 years. I think of the incredible resilience and spirit of the American people, especially black Americans. In 2020, in the middle of a deadly pandemic, a historic march for justice and equality, you showed up in historic numbers. Your voices were clear. Your votes were decisive. You elected me and Kamala and more members of the CBC, and together we enacted historic laws to fundamentally transform this nation and deliver the promise of America to all Americans. But we need to get the word out on promises made and promises kept. We must get the word out. With so much information, outright lies, and the media that dwells on negatives, the people don't know the progress we've made, but they're going to. They're in the process. You know, folks have the audacity to say, I cut HBCU funding, and people believed it. Let me be clear. We've invested more than $7 billion in HBCUs, and it's just starting, more than any time in American history. A promise made and a promise kept. Let's be clear, Kamala and I came into office determined to transform how the economy works. Change the way it literally functions. If you notice, a lot of mainstream economists are starting to talk about Bidenomics, that grow the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. Because when you do that, the poor have a ladder up, and the middle class do well, and the wealthy still do very well, except they got to start paying their taxes. We all do well. Folks, our plan is working. A record 13.5 million new jobs just since we came to office 2 years ago. More jobs than any president has created in a single 4-year term. Black unemployment reaching historic lows. Black small businesses starting up at a faster rate than any time in the last 25 years. Without a single Republican vote, We took on Big Pharma that I've been fighting for 30 years. We capped, and we won, by the way. We won. We capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 instead of $400. We capped out-of-pocket expense for drugs for seniors at $2,000 a year for all medications, all expensive drugs, including those cancer drugs that are $10,000, $12,000, $14,000. They'll never have to pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter what your bills are. And we did it without a single Republican vote. And by the way, we got to do it for everybody, not just seniors. Look, we passed the most significant climate law ever, anywhere in the history of the world. That's not hyperbole, it's a fact. Environmental justice and jobs to frontline and fence-line black communities suffering from the legacy of pollution, like Cancer Alley in Louisiana, Route 9 in Delaware. Thanks to my Justice 40 initiative, 40% of all the benefits that flow from climate investments must flow directly to disadvantaged and underserved communities, like electrifying school buses so kids don't have to breathe polluted air and diesel buses. All this matters. I made a promise in my campaign to put the first black woman on the United States Supreme Court. And I meant it, and we did it. And with the support of the CBC, Ketanji Brown Jackson's on the bench, and she's the brightest of anybody on that bench. And I want to publicly thank Cory Booker and Dick Durbin on the Judiciary Committee for getting it done. Look, with their help, I've appointed more black women federal appellate judges than every other president in the history of the United States combined, more than every one. We made the largest increase in Pell Grants in over a decade, helping students from families who nearly make less than $60,000 a year afford college. It matters. When more than 70% of black undergraduate borrowers are Pell Grant recipients, it matters. And our new student debt repayment plan is going to help millions of borrowers, including a significant number of black students. We know black college graduates have an average of $25,000 more in student debt than white graduates. My plan is to help black students and families cut their total lifetime payments per dollar in half. And I'm going to get it done. And keeping my promise that no one should be in jail merely for the use of possession of marijuana. God Almighty. And those who are in jail are out. They're going to be released, and their records are going to be expunged. Look, folks, thanks to your advocacy, especially Lucy Jordan's mom, who passed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years, and will continue to fight to reinstate assault weapons ban, which when I was United States Senator, I got passed and only could keep it for 10 years, but we're going to get it back again. It matters, it matters, it matters. And by the way, look at the numbers. When it was there for 10 years, mass shootings dropped precipitously across the nation. It works. We stand with the CBC to reduce disparities in jobs, healthcare, and education, working hand in hand to close the racial wealth gap and staying committed to black Americans' prosperity. I was proud to sign a permanent authorization of the Minority Business Development Agency for the first time in history, helping even more black borrowers, black-owned businesses grow. Last month, Vice President Harris announced the recipient of more than $100 million in federal funding to help underserved entrepreneurs start small businesses in high-growth, high-wage industries like healthcare and infrastructure. Plus, my administration oversees hundreds of billions of dollars in federal contracts, everything from refurbishing the decks of aircraft carriers to installing handrails in federal buildings. I made a commitment that I would increase the number of those contracts going to African-American small businesses by double to 10%. That will bring 15%. That will bring by 2025, 15%. That will mean an additional $100 billion going to black small businesses. $100 billion. To help close the racial wealth gap, Secretary Fudge is expanding efforts to build a black generational wealth through home ownership like all middle-class folks made it. That means addressing the cruel fact that black families' homes, often appraised at half the value, significant 20% less value, same home, built across the highway, different neighborhoods. If the same home, the black home, will be valued at 20% less, built by the same builder, by the same outfit. Look, folks, we're aggressively combating racial discrimination in housing, including working to restore the rule that says if a community gets federal housing aid, it's not enough just to say it won't discriminate. It has to be meaningful, take meaningful affirmative steps to overcome patterns of segregation and give everybody a fair shot that lives there. We're also working with leaders to strengthen programs to redress the negative impacts of redlining. We're launching a $1 billion pilot project funded by my bipartisan infrastructure law to help reconnect communities that highways have rolled through. Any of you in my city of Wilmington, Delaware, you go up I-95, it goes underground for a long ways. It divides the community, the black community. They're separated. No way to get together. Highways are physically broken up, blocked out predominantly black communities from opportunities and economic growth. These things matter. They matter in terms of growth. With the American Rescue Plan, passed without, I might add, without a single Republican vote, we reduced black poverty by half by expanding the child tax credit. Well, when we tried to renew it, with your help, we're going to fight to make it permanent and expand the child care tax credit. And by the way, it doesn't just help children and their families, it helps everyone. When a mom can go to work and her child is cared for, everything gets better. The economy grows, everyone grows. It's good for everybody, just a little breathing room, as my dad would say. Look, while we're at it, we're building new roads and bridges, high-speed internet, affordable internet for every American, replacing every lead pipe in America, and as many as 10 million homes, 400,000 schools and child care centers, so everyone can turn on a faucet and be sure they're drinking clean water and not damaging their brains. Folks, presumptuous to say, but it's true. Our economic vision is working, creating jobs, building wealth, providing communities with a sense of dignity. My dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Joey, and I swear to God, this is what he'd say. He said, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about your competence. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. From our administration, a promise made is a promise kept. Because of you, we're putting the work in and we're getting results. But we've got to get the word out. We have to get it out. Just think about it. There are those in Congress who are sowing so much division, they're willing to shut down the government. You know it better than anybody. Just a few months ago, after long negotiations between myself and the new speaker, we agreed to spending levels the government will fund essential domestic and national security priorities, while still cutting the deficit by $1 trillion over the next decade. Now, a small group of extreme Republicans don't want to live up to the deal. So now everyone in America could be forced to pay the price. Let's be clear. If the government shuts down, that means members of Congress, members of the U.S. military are going to have to continue to work and not get paid. A government shutdown could impact everything from food safety to cancer research to Head Start programs for children. Funding the government is one of those basic responsibilities of Congress. And it's time for Republicans to start doing the job America elected them to do.
All right, folks, going to a break. We come back. Omekongo and Julian will share their thoughts on what both had to say and what they need to do to convince black voters that they are the best option in 2024. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Staying balanced is tough enough with the normal day-to-day stuff going on. But what happens when we get the unexpected? It may come crashing down through a bad diagnosis for either you or a loved one.
My son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came at a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business.
How to cope and even stay balanced when even the walls are crashing in. That's on a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, Juliana Macongo, a lot there said by Vice President Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden. Look, as I sat there, Macongo, listening to both of them, I literally turned to Congressman Jim Clyburn and said, they got to figure out how to make that stuff plain and simple and drill it into the heads of people and say, we did this, and this we plan to do next if we're reelected 4 more years. But you have to do that in a way that reaches the people where they are, not by issuing some white paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's why it's so important that Vice President Harris is going on these college tours. And you'll see a stark difference between what they're doing on these campuses versus what Republicans like Charlie Kirk are doing. It got, kicked off of Arizona's campus. They have to take the message to the people, plain and simple. Like you said, folks aren't going to whitehouse.gov. Folks aren't really following them on social media. They got to go to the people. And when VP Harris is going to these events, there are lines around the corner, the excitement is there. She can gen up excitement in ways that she hasn't really been allowed to do. And you've been talking about this on many times on your show. She needs to be able to get out there and do her thing. And whether it's something like the hip hop party, whether it's something like or leading this department on gun violence prevention and the like, I believe that she is the key. It's great to hear, Biden speak about these things and specifically talk about the Black agenda, but I really believe that she is going to be the key to making sure that his base, his number one base, which is Black people, stay in tune and stay in touch with the White House and ultimately vote for them. Look, the Republicans have made it clear. They're going for the extremists. They're going for the people who are the most hardcore, even though that base is not expanding. This whole show tonight, or half the show tonight, we've talked about what they're doing with the courts, with the justices. They are doubling down on trying to grab power. And so what should the Democrats do? They should be returning to their number one and number two base, Black women followed by Black men, and continue to speak and go to the places where Black people are. CBC was great event. I'm glad you played this now for many people who couldn't be there. Take this message across the country. And those of y'all who are in Black media or Black influenced media, you got to augment their voices as well.
Julian?
I agree with Macongo. I think that they've got to get out there. Think that it was great to see them at CBC. I was there. I wish you had played the part where Biden said, I got your back, I got your back, I got your back. And I'm thinking, really, dude? Where are my reparations? I mean, he could do a lot. He could do a lot. I know that a lot of people think reparations are controversial, but the fact is that Sheila Jackson Lee met with him on Friday last, and she is on fire to make sure that he sets up a commission. Others will not like it, but as Obakongo said, we are his base. You cannot run away from your base. I got a piece of data that said that, 25% of Black men aged 18 to 39 and 20% of Black women aged 18 to 39 are seriously considering voting for Donald Trump. That's
where's data from?
There's a young brother who's a new pollster. I don't have his name with me right here, but I ran into him at March on Washington, and he shared the data. I'll find the actual source for you. But he, I was stunned. And I was telling Siobhan Bradley at NCW, I said, what are these young sisters thinking? But the bottom line here is that they have not made a compelling case for young people. They haven't made a compelling case for young Black people, and they have to. We need every vote out there. We don't need people saying, I'm staying home because I'm not turned on. You don't have to be turned on. But quite frankly, some of these young people require some ignition. They need to be ignited. And the college tour, I think, is great. I think that the college tour is fantastic. Biden going to Detroit for UAW is fantastic. We've got to get to more working class people. And it's really important. I mean, like you said, Roland, white papers are, well, what do y'all said? White papers ain't gonna get it. People have to be able to hear and see. They got to do more advertising, more tweeting, whatever, the social media stuff. That both of those speeches should be on social media, Instagram, something like that. And that part, I got your back, that really needs to be on there. I think it will really be important. They've got everything. I mean, inflation is up, but it's not up as much as it was last year. Inflation is up. Gas prices are up. Food prices are up. There's some negatives. 8 o'clock. There's some negatives, but there are lots of positives, and they have not maximized them at all.
All right, folks, that's some quick breaking news here. The special master in the case out of Alabama, the redistricting case, has released his report. That report was due today, laying out how the line's going to be withdrawn. Go to my iPad. And so it's a 44-page document, and it lays out here the recommendations from the special master, the background of this particular report, all the legal maneuvers that actually took place, the Supreme Court ruling on this as well, and what needs actually to happen. And so throughout this report, it lays out in terms of how the lines should be redrawn and how they should be that do not violate the Voting Rights Act. And so again, in the in one of the lines here from the special master, they make clear. Go back to my iPad. It said that per the court's instructions, each proposed plan remedies the likely violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act identified in the court's preliminary injunction order. Each proposed plan also complies with the U.S. Constitution and the voting rights, adheres to the one person, one vote requirement, and it goes on and on and on. We'll talk more in depth about this special master's report tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Julian Malvo, we appreciate it. Obakongo being here, thanks a lot as well. Folks, don't forget, support us in what we do. Nobody else is doing the kind of news that we do. Nobody. We're the only Black-owned news outlet doing what we do. We're the only Black-owned news and information digital network in this country as well. We are covering the stories in depth in a way other people don't even want to touch. Your resources absolutely are critically important to us being able to continue doing this work. We are about $325,000 behind our goal for the year. And so please, if you would join our Bring the Funk fan club, the goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You can see your checking money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, you can also download the Black Star Network app Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. You can also get the audio version on Audible. Don't forget, our 24-hour streaming channel is on Amazon News. So go to Amazon Fire, go to Amazon News. You can also say, Alexa, play news from the Black Star Network. Also, check out our 24-hour streaming channel on Plex TV. You can catch it there as well. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?